I am so excited to speak to our guest today. She is an attorney that specializes in working with clients in the aesthetic industry. Please help me to introduce Sara.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. So excited to share some of my knowledge and hopefully help people.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So let's dive right in, Sara. I'm super excited to ask you some questions. I did so much research, so I'm happy. I think you're going to add a lot of benefit to the people that actually watch these videos. So tell us, how did you get started in the aesthetic industry? How did I know it now? I want to remind the audience one more time. She is an attorney, so this is going to be great because it's a different aspect. But how did you start in the aesthetic industry, and what kind of made you want to get into it?
Sure. And even though I'm smiling and I'm a happy person, I am an attorney. So yes, that's true. So the way I got started in it was actually my ex-husband and I started a medical spa together a few years ago. And I was always an entrepreneur and I loved starting companies. And I was a corporate attorney and then an entrepreneur. And then I got into the aesthetic space kind of by accident, right? He was telling me that he wants to open a Botox clinic. And I said, well, that sounds interesting. I never heard of Botox before. Isn't that something very expensive or something that older people do? And he basically educated me on it and said, actually, no, it's a really big growing field. And we started the medical spa in, I think, 2015 or so, and then grew that to about 12 locations. And then sometime after that, I was like, I love helping people and I want to work for different medical spas, not just one. And so I started to focus on my law firm and started the law firm. And here we are. Now we have hundreds of clients all over the country and it's awesome.
Amazing, amazing. Wow, wow. Now, I've seen that you work for some of the top aesthetic companies in the United States before. What made you kind of want to start your own law firm versus kind of working under someone else?
I was always an entrepreneur and I love, being my own boss and also helping people with their companies, as opposed to just working for one company. I think it's super exciting to me when someone calls me with an idea or they say, oh, I'm opening an aesthetic training center in Kansas. Can you help me? So that's more exciting to me than just working in-house for one company. I'd done that before, but I kind of like helping multiple people at the same time.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And you get a good range of everybody, because I know sometimes, like with me, I was working in one company and you only can, focus on one thing, but when you're working kind of for yourself or you kind of pioneer that, you get to expand so much more. So I agree with that.
Yeah, it's more fun. And I get to learn about what everybody else is doing and help them really, do it better, do it safer. So I love that.
Amazing, amazing. So I know you, like we mentioned before, specialize in really helping aesthetic clinics, med spas, things of that nature. What are some common legal problems that a lot of med spas tend to kind of get into, especially in the beginning?
I think the two most common problems that I see are how they're set up, like who owns the medical spa and what procedures people are doing. So in a lot of states, there's very strict rules about who can own a medical spa. You can't just be a business person, or it can't just be a nurse practitioner. In other states, you can do that completely. So a lot of times people are not set up correctly. And that becomes a big problem because if they ever get sued or if they're trying to sell their practice, it really, will hurt them. The other thing that happens is people need to make sure that they're delegating their procedures correctly. So people are, let's say, having an RN doing a procedure that he or she is not supposed to be doing. That procedure should be done by a nurse practitioner, for example. So that's the second most common problem.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Do you see that happen? How often do you see that happen?
Unfortunately, I see that happen very often.
Wow.
Like, we talk to people about it several times a week. So then the thing is that in this industry, a lot of times there's not a lot of enforcement right now, but there is some, and it's increasing. So some people are saying, okay, I have my esthetician doing, let's say microneedling. And I say, well, in your state, actually, estheticians specifically are not supposed to do it. But they say, well, everybody does it that way and there's no enforcement. While that's true, that's not legally compliant. And if the person ever sues you, your insurance company may not cover you just because you're doing a non-compliant procedure, basically.
Now, I'm located in South Florida. That's where we're based out of, and that is it's tend to be a huge problem down here. I see a lot of spas do things like that that aren't technically, like you said, legal, but then everybody else is kind of doing those type of things. How long do you think it would take for the industry to catch up, or how far do you think the industry is behind with those type of things? Compliant.
I I think the industry is very much behind. I think it's probably going to take years. But also, whenever a bad adverse event happens, it catches up. Like the industry catches up by leaps and bounds. So, for example, that supermodel with cool sculpting. Now cool sculpting is being looked at in all the states much more than it was before. Whereas before, people were not super concerned with it. So if someone gets, injured with something and it's serious, then everyone starts catching up, the regulators, the med spa owners. But right now it's pretty relaxed.
Okay, definitely, I can definitely understand that. If a client wanted to get in touch with you, what type of client would get in touch with you, or could you represent? What would be your like ideal?
Um, we have lots of different ones. We represent people who are starting medical spas,
Mhm.
either like single individuals, doctors, nurse practitioners, RNs, or business people, or we have people who are adding locations or hiring key employees. We have people who have a big medical spa overseas, like with multiple locations, and are trying to enter the US market. A couple of people from Europe, Asia, and then people who are trying to start some sort of medical spa service company, like a medical spa software company or a training center or recruiting companies. So we have a lot of different aesthetic related clients. So not just like the people, but also the companies around them.
Wow, and that's huge because I mean, just personally, me, like I know so many different factors, so many different assets of the business that people look for people like you all the time. So it's so of a necessary field that I don't find too many. So interesting, definitely cool. Tell me, like, where are you guys located by chance?
We're located in New York City, in Manhattan. And then I have associates. I have an associate in California. I have one in Florida, in South Florida. I have one in Connecticut. Where else are they? Yeah, two in Connecticut, another one in New York. So it's kind of what's called a distributed law firm, where we allow our attorneys to work from home and work from wherever they want. And I think that's a new model of a lot of service providers, where we can have really great attorneys working with us, but they don't physically have to sit with me in my office in the city. They can be in Florida, and I could be jealous of their nice weather and, different lifestyle.
Yes, definitely nice down here. But that's a cool concept, and the way things are going now, that does work a lot. Speaking of Florida, I know you're familiar with Florida law a little bit or a lot, and I wanted to ask you a couple questions, kind of just for providers that I speak to in this area. Is there any advice you could give to like not physician owned, but like a mid-level provider owned med spa down here, or like for a Florida provider?
Sure. So for Florida providers, there are very strict rules about who can be your medical director, and how they have to be board certified or board eligible in plastic surgery or dermatology. And there are these distance requirements. It's really important to make sure that your medical director complies with that, because it's not only on them, it's on you as a provider as well. And a lot of people say, well, how do I find a provider? But there are companies like yours who could help you, do that, find both the medical director side or injectors. So I mean, it's hard because the market is very competitive, but there are, medical directors out there willing to do this kind of thing. And there are injectors willing to do it. So I think that's one. Number two is, non-competition, non-solicitation stuff. That's a huge employment issue in this industry, unlike anything I've ever seen in any other industry. So it's hard because in a way, all of us, right? We're investing a ton of money into our people and making sure that, we're training them and giving them great opportunities and stuff, and resources. And then a lot of times, or sometimes, people want to do their own thing. I mean, that's natural, right? So contractually, of course, we could have non-competes and non-solicitations, but especially non-competes, they're hard to enforce in Florida and in other states. So you have to think of other ways to get people to stay, not because they signed a piece of paper. The contractual reason for staying will never be a good one. we have negotiated lots of like severance and settlements and this and that, but it still doesn't feel good. And it's not the right way. The right way is creating a really great culture.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm glad you touched on that point, because that's a huge thing down here. It's like, I've seen a lot of providers get into very nasty things with employers over contracts and things of that nature. I find it so interesting because if you look at like California, non-competes really don't exist there at all, compared to
Yeah, it's very state specific. Yeah, so it's totally state specific. In New York as well, it's hard to enforce a non-compete. And still, I mean, even if you have the most perfect non-compete and it's enforceable, you have to go to court to enforce it, which means thousands of dollars in litigation fees. It's not, $1,000. It's usually at the very least $5,000-$10,000.
Wow. Okay. Definitely. Now, I wanted to ask about, now I took a look at your website and I seen that you actually can help providers open up their own med spa. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have lots of people who come to us who want to open up their own place. So we help them with the legal structuring depending on their state. So for example, if it's Florida, our Florida licensed attorney works with them and tells them what they need to do to organize and helps them set up all the paperwork and do all the compliance procedures and consent and questionnaires and the OSHA training and all the things that you need to operate a medical spa. I mean, we're seeing a huge amount of people trying to do their own thing. But we're also seeing a huge amount of hiring in the industry in general. So a lot of the work that we do is employment contracts for providers. And I mean, we are seeing so many practices bringing on new people.
Wow. That's amazing. So not only do you help businesses, you can also help providers to open their own med spa and kind of keep things right as far as compliance is concerned. Amazing. I'm sure a lot of people will be able to use your services. Now tell us, what's your favorite aesthetic procedure, if you have any?
Oh God, that's a hard question. I mean, it's so funny because when I entered this, so I'm 40 now. When I entered this business, I think I was 33 or so. And I never heard of it, never done anything. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I tried Botox, and then I tried fillers, and then I tried microneedling, and then I tried lasers and Kybella and cool sculpting and, basically anything that I could. Since I was helping people sell it and, make sure that they're compliant, I wanted to experience it. So I would say my favorite aesthetic procedure is fillers because the result is instant. Yes. And I've seen like life-changing experiences. Like I've seen clients who walk out looking like 10, 20 years younger, an hour later, and really? So happy. Yes. Amazing. So I think fillers is my favorite one. I mean, I have so many fillers in my face that I'm like, probably at least 10 syringes currently. And, I always stay current on my Botox or Dysport. I mean, I really believe in the industry. I think the procedures themselves are incredible. I love them. I don't know what I would do without them.
Yeah. How do you see the industry kind of trending for the next 10 years or the next 20 years by chance?
I think there'll be more and more different procedures and different types of products, like what we see in Europe, where there's so many more types of fillers, so many more different types of toxins, so many more different lasers. So I think the industry will be trending to more and more. And I think there'll be more standardized regulation, but it's going to come very slowly. So I don't see the industry, saying, okay, from now on, it's only going to be controlled by doctors. I see a huge shift away from what used to be called core doctors. So a lot of our initial clients were just dermatologists or plastic surgeons, but that's really not the majority of them now. I see the industry moving toward people who are not dermatologists or plastic surgeons, because those people want to do, a lot of them do surgery or they do medical derm, and they don't want to do this kind of stuff. And to really be really good at anything, I think you have to be totally focused on it. So the people, some of the nurse practitioners and stuff who are at medical spas who are doing this full time, who do 100 filler procedures a month or a week, they're great at this, as good as doctors who are doing it 10 times a month, because they have the experience. So I think the industry will move more and more toward mid-level providers and having a much wider scope of things we can do for cellulite, for skin laxity. I mean, I would love something for eye color for myself, skin color. I mean, I think there are a lot of things on the horizon, but I think it's super exciting.
One more question I wanted to ask you about the non-compete as we go back, because I just thought about that. Is there any tips that you can give to, I guess, providers before signing it? Because a lot of providers talk to me, they're like, I don't know what's really in this. And a lot of employers enforce like, you need to sign this today, or I can't have you in the building anymore. So is there any tip that you can give to providers when a job offer comes and they're confronted with that?
I think they should definitely have it reviewed by an attorney, no question. And they should ask themselves, okay, what is this employer giving me that's unique for me to sign this? Are they giving me maybe paid training? Are they giving me a higher salary? There needs to be something in it for it to make sense. So I would make sure that you definitely read it and definitely, consult an attorney, because a lot of these non-competes on their face are not reasonable, right? If someone tells you, no matter where you are in the US, if someone's non-compete is 30 miles and 2 years, it's probably not reasonable. So it's really important just to know for your state and for your area what is reasonable, and to talk to someone about it. And a lot of times I'm seeing the non-competes get waived by employers, meaning if the employee really is someone that the employer really wants, the employer is willing to negotiate. They may not seem like it. They may say, no, if you don't sign this, we're going to walk away. But a lot of times when we represent the employee, like the employer does not walk away because there's such a shortage of providers.
I can agree with that 100%. I've seen a lot of employers that are like stone iron with the non-compete, and if they see a great employee, everything is negotiable. Nothing is ever stone. So I can definitely.
Yeah. And you can, present it in a nice way, like make a business case why it makes sense. Like, hey, like you want me to sign a 10-mile 1-year non-compete. Okay, so how am I, like, what would you like me to do? So if my employment ends, how, where can I work? And also, how much does this cost you? Can I buy it out? So why don't we put in the contract, like, okay, maybe for $25,000, you release me from this non-compete. So you could, like, in advance sort of agree on what the cost will be to not have the non-compete be enforced. So that way you avoid a big fight.
I can agree with those points. Those are solid points that really add a lot of value. Is there any websites or anything you could recommend for, I guess, providers or even business owners in the aesthetic community?
I mean, I would say your state's nursing board's website are great. I think just like reading some of the latest industry news is great. I don't think there's one great sort of website resource. I think it's more about talking to the professionals and having a great support network rather than like any particular website. But I think for a lot of people who want to like do it themselves, contacting your state's nursing board or medical board or a physician assistant board is possible, and you can contact them and they usually are responsive. So that I think is a great resource for those people who want to do it themselves. That's really underused.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me, talking a little bit more about the aesthetic industry and also from a legal standpoint. Tell everybody where they can find you if they would like to use your services. I'll make sure to drop that below, but you go ahead, you can start off and tell them.
Sure. Our website is lengealaw.com. We're going to put the link below so I don't have to spell it out. But yeah, you guys can find me on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Instagram. And we're always happy to answer questions, and we offer a free 15-minute consultation.
Amazing. Well, until next time, goodbye.
Bye. Thanks, Jonathan.